how do they look like? They look like both tiger and lion. Tiger and lion, both, right? Tiger जस्तो पनि देखिन्छ, lion जस्तो पनि देखिन्छ. अनि एउटा कुरा त, now you will question definitely. If they can reproduce, if lion and tiger can reproduce and give birth to a new organism, new species, what does that tell us? के भन्छ यसले? टाइगर र लायनले नयाँ कुनै प्राणी जन्माउन सक्छन्, रिप्रोड्युस गर्न सक्छन्, प्रजनन गर्न सक्छन् भनेपछि what does this tell us? This tells us that they are closely related yet different. This tells us that tiger and lion, they are closely related but they are different. Right? Because they can reproduce together and give birth to a baby, that means there is lot of resemblance between tiger and lion. But in fact, they are both. Complete the sentence. They are both
different.
They are different, but they are both species. They are cats. They belong to a family called cats. The cats that we have in our homes, they are similar to the cats in the forest, and that's why tigers are called as wild cats. Right? The cat that we have at home, it's small. Meow meow. Right? But the cat that we have in the jungle, they are completely different. They look different, but genetically they are very much similar. Right? They are very much similar. Look, let's have a look at this. Hybrid. When a lion mates with a tiger female, it gives you a liger. Look at this. If tiger male mates with lion female, exactly opposite, then you have a tigon. Right? So this tells us that tiger and lions, they are closely related. This close relationship, where do you think this comes from? If you see two people with similar characteristics, similar facial structure, what do you generally conclude? What do you, if I keep this fellow here, Ghanshyam and Pavitra together, do they look similar? They look similar, no? Ghanshyam and Pavitra, their facial structure is quite similar. What are your eyes, or you? These are just marbles, huh? And when two people, they look similar, for example, Tulsi and him, if I keep them together, what can you conclude? What will be your hypothesis? Brothers and sisters. There is another thing. Probably they have, if they are brothers and sisters, they have a common ancestor. They have a common Papa and Mama, or probably grandfather, or probably great-great-grandfather. Right? That is to say, what I want to say here is, if lion and tiger can mate and form a new organism, that means they are closely related. If they are closely related, that tells me that they have, somewhere down the line in the past, they had the same ancestor. Through the course of evolution, somewhere what happened? Tiger went one way, lion went the other way. There was evolution. There was an evolution, you see. And this is what we call as phylogenetic classification. Alright? Classification based on the evolution of organisms. Based on the relationship that they share through their ancestors. Alright? So, common ancestor. One thing that you can definitely say is that they must have had a common ancestor. Right? And then, so, according to the modern evolutionary theory or evolutionary biology, what the scientists or the biologists, they've come to conclusion is that we had one common ancestor. We started all the way millions and millions and millions of years back. Not that many millions probably, but yes, millions of years back. We started from a common ancestor. We had the same, let's say, I don't know, mother, papa, mommy, daddy, but we had common ancestor. This common ancestor is called as universal common ancestor. This common ancestor is called as universal common ancestor. From there we evolved and we branched out like the tree. What happens in the tree? What happens? If you have a tree, what happens? You have a tree, right, like this, and then it branches off like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. Isn't it? This is a tree. And then you have other branches like this one. You see. Hello? If you want to sleep, please go out, okay? So this is the common. All begins here. All begins here, right? In the past, we began somewhere here. And that is the universal common ancestor, LUCA. And then one species went this way, the other one, because of environmental situation, because of certain, I think mating between the species, and slow, evolutionary process, what happened? We developed new traits and characters. Right? Just like if you look at lions and tigers now, you can immediately identify, okay, this is lion, this is tiger, right? But that probably some thousands of years back, they started with the same ancestor. And one ancestor went this way, let's say in some place, and the other ancestor went in the other direction. And because of the environment, what happened? They developed new characters and slowly they became different organisms. So that is the study. So the phylogenetic relationship is the study of relationship among organisms or population through evolution. We look at how they have evolved in the past, how evolution happened and new organism came into existence. Through that, we study the interrelationship. Right? For example, if you study the relationship between brothers and brothers, two brothers, right? They are much more close, right? Than, let's say, somebody else. Okay? So that's what I mean by phylogenetic classification or phylogenetic tree at the moment. Phylogenetic. Phylogeny. Now, example of phylogeny. Let's have a look at this. Here. So you have a lion and you have tiger. Both are different species, but they are both cats. They are both cats. And somewhere in the past, before lion and tigers came into existence, somewhere in the past, they had a common ancestor. They had a common ancestor. And in phylogeny, we call that common ancestor as node. We call that as node. Somewhere in the past, let's say the time approximately according to the evolutionary biologists, they say that it happened somewhere 529,000 years back. About how many years back? 529,000 to 392,000 years back. What happened? This one population, there was some organism that looked like lion or tiger, and then it diverged. One started to become lion, and the other one started to become
Tiger.
tiger. Finally, we have these ones. And what happened to these organisms at the node? That's a question. What happened? What do you think has happened? What do you think happened? What do you think had happened? They got extinct. They got extinct. Because they diverged. It's like if we look into our forefathers, they are not anymore there. Our forefathers are alive through us. Right? We are there, but our forefathers are not there. But doesn't mean that they didn't exist. They existed, and that's the reason we are here, right? So, that's the phylogenetic relationship, you see. What establishes the phylogenetic relationship between lion and tiger? That's the node. That's the node that establishes. If you look into the word philo means tribe or a group. Philo means group or a tribe. Group or a tribe that is genetically similar is called as phylogenetic or phylogenetically similar. Alright? So, that's called the node. If you look into a phylogenetic tree, you will have different nodes. And at that nodes, what happens? There will be diversion. And throughout the history of the living organisms, there are multiple nodes. And in that precise times, what happens? One common population like us, all of us look like human beings, right? Something happened, let's say. Something happened. One of us went to, let's say, moon, I don't know, moon, and somebody stayed on the earth. We may develop over a period of time, about 10,000 or 100,000 years after, we may be entirely different organisms if we happen to survive on the moon. Alright? Okay? There was a mosquito here. Right? Yeah. Now, whenever you study about the relationship, you should be able to understand the phylogenetic tree. Okay? You should be able to understand phylogenetic tree. So, phylogenetic tree, you have two species, A and B. You have two species, let's say A and B, like we have considered cats, what were they? Lions and tigers. So lions and tigers, they have a common ancestor. So when we go here, that means we are in the past or in the future, Hima? What does this node represent? Common ancestor. This node represents common ancestor. Common ancestor. Right? And this common ancestor probably had something, let's say here C. Now, C and all of these had a common ancestor. This ancestor and this C had a common ancestor, another ancestor. We go back in time, right? Similarly, you can build tree and find the relationship between various different organisms that exist now. So that's why study of phylogeny is very, very important. Because by studying the relationship of that happened throughout the evolutionary history, we can closely associate, understand the relationship that each organism shares with the other. Right? That's why phylogenetic tree is very, very important. Now, moving on to the next. So, two organisms, they share common ancestor, like I said. And then there is another organism. C shares also a common ancestor of what? This is common ancestor of what? Tell me. No. A and B has this ancestor, let's say, M. Alright? Now, which is closely related? Let's try to find. which of these organisms are closely related? Between A and C are closely related, or A and B? A and B. Because they have a common ancestor that is immediate. Right? More recent common ancestors. They have a more recent common ancestors. More recent common ancestors. What about the relationship that C shares with B and C shares with A? Is it same, or which one is closer?
Same.
Which one shares closer relationship?
Same.
C and B, or C and A?
Almost.
It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Why? Because between C and B, what's the line, you see? B has an ancestor, this one, and then it goes here, right?
Yes.
C also shares this one. Similarly for A also, it has to go back to one ancestor back, and then here, 2 steps. 1, 1, 1, 1. So the distance between B and C is 1 plus 1, 2, 2 and 1, right? 2 and 1. What about the distance from A to C?
2 and
1, 2 and 1. You see. Therefore, they have what?
Same.
Phylogenetically, they have same relationship. They are similar in that sense, you see. And then, what about C and M? Which one shares close relation? C and M, or C and B? Which of these are closer?
C and M.
C and M, of course, because they have to just go one generation back, and they have a common ancestor. So, if you can read this, you will definitely be able to understand the phylogenetic relation between different species and see which of the organisms are closer. Okay? Which of them share more common, genetic and biological character. Now, let's have a look at this one. So why phylogenetic tree? Why is it important? It is important because it demonstrates evolutionary relationship. Which one evolved from where? And how these organisms have common ancestors and all that, right? So it demonstrates evolutionary relationship between A and B, relationship between B and E. How are they related? They are related by this ancestor here, you see. Similarly, how is C related to F? C comes here and then here and F. So this ancestor. By studying about this ancestor, we know a lot about C and F. What about A and E? How do we know?
By studying.
What connects the relationship? This node. This species here. So they have diverged from here. And then again there are diversions. Multiple diversions can happen, right? And then how species evolve from common ancestors, right? We can study, we can find out how species evolve from common ancestors, because all of us have common ancestors. All of us share common ancestors, right? And then species more related if they have a more recent ancestor. A and B, what's their ancestor? This one, right? What about A and C? Their common ancestor is this one. Which one is more recent? This one is more recent, right? This is more recent ancestor. So therefore, A and B are more related than A and C. Okay, that should be well understood. So the order is based on common anatomical and genetic features. Phylogenetic classification of kingdoms. It could be 5, it could be 6. We'll study in the next class. Okay. It depends on their genetic feature. It depends on their genetic feature and all that found through the study of fossil. what do we know about dinosaurs? We can't see dinosaurs now, right? We don't know what their face looks like. It doesn't look like Ghanshyam. It doesn't look like Sagar, who is sleeping now. But we can study about dinosaurs by studying their fossils. By studying fossils of various different organisms and finding genetic similarity, we can place them where they belong approximately. Of course, it's not the perfect classification, but it is the closest that we can be. So, it is based on what?
It is
Based on
genetic feature.
Genetic features. And how do we know genetic features of the past organisms that are not anymore here on this earth?
Fossils.
By studying their fossils. By studying their fossils and their other indirect means. Okay? Now, coming to this interesting question. What are birds? What is the relationship that birds do you think there is a relationship between these birds that exist now and the dinosaurs that we had? Interestingly, they had common forefathers. They come from the same ancestor. Dinosaurs and birds. So we can write birds are dinosaurs. Okay? So somewhere in the past, when these velociraptors, these are velociraptors, they developed wings. So there is no longer really any doubt about birds. Birds are type of dinosaurs. There is no doubt now. People say, yes, dinosaurs, actually birds are dinosaurs of some type, right? Because they were evolved. If you look at the phylogenetic tree, you will come to a node which is common to both. Right? These days, the debate is about the details. The strong evidence doesn't just come from the fossilized bones. It's not only about the bones. It's not only from the bones of the dinosaurs, but also from the skeleton, across the skeleton, but from the fossilized soft tissue, like feathers. When they studied the feathers of velociraptors, that's a kind of dinosaurs, because dinosaurs are hundreds of different types of dinosaurs, okay? So velociraptors are another type of dinosaurs. This, upon the study, what happened was there was a lot of similarity between the modern birds that we find here now and velociraptors. That it was very, very common. So therefore, conclusion has been done regarding the common ancestors of what? Birds, right? So if you look at the phylogenetic relation between the birds and the dinosaurs, you can have a look here, you see. So the time is somewhere here, okay? There are many, many species in the past here. So it goes to snakes in this direction and dinosaurs in this direction. Turtles, somewhere at this node, turtles actually diverged. One population became turtles, and the other population became some kind of to-be dinosaurs. To-be dinosaurs. And from there, one became non-avian dinosaurs on one side, and the other ones became birds. So these dinosaurs and birds, they have a common ancestor. Where? Here, you see. Here. Or even here also. One became birds and the other one became non-avian dinosaurs. And crocodiles, of course, share something different. Very interesting, right? How evolution actually made species diverge, yet have the common ancestor. And then, let's have a look at this one here. Example of phylogenetic tree. So, you have vertebrates, you have one branch here. So from here branched out, jawless fish. And then there was another branching in the recent times. Cartilaginous fish. And then, again, much more recent, bony fish, much more. Amphibians, frogs, and then mammals, and then turtles, and then lizards and snakes diverged here at this point, and then crocodiles and birds. Actually, dinosaurs are somewhere here, before birds. Somewhere here, dinosaurs diverge this way and birds diverge this way. So this is long back. So birds and dinosaurs are much more similar to birds and amphibians. Do you get that sense? The similarity between what?
Birds and amphibians.
Birds and
Dinosaur.
amphibians. Where is their root? What's the ancestor that relates them? Birds, node here, amphibians here. That's the node that connects, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
That's the node that connects, right? This one. Birds and amphibians. What about birds and dinosaurs? That's the node here. So, which one share close relationship? Birds and amphibians or birds and dinosaurs?
Birds and dinosaurs.
Because they have a more recent ancestor, right? Similarly, compare, let's say, fish and birds. Do you think they were more close, or do you think birds and dinosaurs?
Birds and dinosaurs.
Right. And our evolution somewhere, I think probably here. It went off here. From here, we human beings somewhere came here, right? So we also share common ancestor with dinosaurs somewhere here. So this is the thing. We are all the के छौँ हामी सबै सबै एउटै वसुधैव कुटुम्बकम पहिलेदेखि अहिलेसम्म सबै we are all the same. So that's the phylogenetic tree. All right. So